Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. and I can confirm the live stream and recording has begun. You may begin your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Council, members of SLT. I see that we do have quorum this morning, and we have Councilor Nesnick joining us by Zoom. So I declare this meeting in session. And as always is the case, at this time we read the land recognition statement, and I will again be performing that duty. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is a traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. And acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. I now go to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, before we proceed, we will just begin with the national anthem. You're welcome, everyone, to stand. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 4. I have a motion put forth by Councillors Wink and seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that the agenda for the November 15th, 2023 regular meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any councillor have any discussion on this? Not seeing any. I call the vote. All those in favor? Motion carries.
That brings us to item number 5, being disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Thank you. And after reviewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 6.1.1, and we have a presentation from Ms. Clark of the Pelham Summerfest Working Group. I would now invite Ms. Clark up to the podium.
Okay. Ms. Clark, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm really pleased to be here today to give you the 2023 final report for Pelham Summerfest. For those who know me, you know that Pelham Summerfest is very near and dear to my heart because Councillor Wink and Director Van Ravensway and me were three of the founding members of Pelham Summerfest. We ran the first event in 2011. It was a one-day event, and look how it's grown since. So it's very special for me to provide this report to you in 2023, all these years later. So I can tell you that the Pelham Summerfest Working Group continues to improve, reimagine, green. We're constantly looking at what we can feature during Pelham Summerfest to really highlight our community. And I think you'll see some features this year that we included that we hope to continue in the coming year that will be of interest to you. So Pelham Summerfest is very special, as you well know. It's been named one of the top 100 festivals by Festivals Ontario and Events Ontario for 6 years in a row. That is very, very special. It puts our community on the map. We are included in publications that the province releases, both in print and online. And it's pretty special for a town of our size to be part of something so significant. We're very proud of that. So I want to take you back, a bit of a flashback here, take you back through Summerfest and remind you of all the fun that we had for those 4 days in July. Okay, is this thing going to work? So we had our opening event on Thursday evening, as you'll recall, and boy, was it special. First of all, the Fonthill Bandshell Committee always brings in a special entertainer that evening for the bandshell, and they did not disappoint this year with Elvis. If you were there, you know how really wonderful an entertainer that person was, so we enjoyed that. Of course, that brought in crowds from everywhere. We had just record attendance on Thursday evening with our supper market, our farmers market, the music before the concert itself, and of course we had our refreshments and lots of food available through the supper market for everyone who was there. Okay. Friday night was country night and continues to be, and I can tell you, I was really surprised at how country night has grown in Summerfest. I remember Councillor Wing saying, we need a country night, and sure enough, we have it, and guess what? It's almost as popular now as Saturday night. Attendance was huge on Friday night. People coming out for the music, for the food, for the vendors, all of the fun that we had on Friday evening, and you can see some of the pictures of Friday night there. We also featured something new this year. You can see the two ladies there holding the strawberries. One is the owner of Fenwick Berry Farm, and the other is the winner of the Strawberry Jam Contest. We saw that as another way of just drawing in local businesses to participate in Summerfest, perhaps in a different way, and we hope to continue that next year. Saturday, well, we were all rocking on Pelham Street. Don't we always do that on Saturday with lots of music? The entertainment begins at 11 o'clock on the main stage. We have lots of food vendors, retail vendors, buskers, roaming buskers. Do you remember the lady with the fire? People are still talking about that busker. We had all sorts of entertainment to keep people staying with us all day on the street. Sorry, this mouse is giving me a little trouble here. And then, of course, the kids zone is very special. We've had that from the very first Summerfest, 2011, when Meridian Credit Union at the time, I think it was Niagara Credit Union at the time, actually sponsored the kids zone for the first time. And as you know, families come in droves to participate in the kids zone because children can jump on the bouncers, they can play with the reptiles, believe it or not, they can listen to children's entertainers. They love that burning schoolhouse with the fire hose. I mean, that's always the most popular. And this year we had a very special addition to the Kids Zone on Saturday. Doulaban Insurance sponsored superhero training in the park, and I can tell you we saw a lot of Spider-Men and all sorts of superheroes in training that Saturday morning, and we really appreciated their sponsorship for it. So Sunday is a bit more chill. As you know, in Peace Park we have a tremendous car show that sort of rings town hall here on the roadway. Lots of great vehicles to look at. People enjoy strolling and looking at those. Lots of good food. And Jim Casson provided the entertainment with all of the musicians that he knows. He was able to bring in a tremendous lineup on Sunday in the band shell. We also had a kids zone, and we hope to expand that because this year we had record attendance on the Sunday. And it was primarily families coming forward. So we hope in 2024 to expand the kids zone a bit and make sure we have the face painter on hand this year, right? And the balloon man and all those other things that the children look forward to. So let me give you some of the facts about Summerfest. You can see here that we had 62 vendors selling either food or retail goods, and most of them were from the Pelham area. Of course, we attract others. In fact, now we get requests from vendors from Toronto and north of Toronto. They've heard about the festival, they see it in Festival and Events Ontario, and they'd like to be part of it. So we're really attracting a wider audience. But our priority for vendors is always Pelham businesses. They take priority over others. We ensure that we have 4 free family days by recruiting sponsors and asking sponsors for cash, for funding to support the festival. And 20 cash sponsors did so this year, and we're very happy about that. Obviously, without their support, Pelham Summerfest would not be the festival that it is. We had 30 entertainers and bands, lots of fun for everybody, all different types of music, and over 1,500 volunteer hours were committed to Pelham Summerfest. That includes everything from the working group. We met last night, for example. We meet throughout the year, to the volunteers who were on site the days of Pelham Summerfest and who helped in advance. And we couldn't do it without the volunteers that we have. Now, every year since 2011, we have been plugging all of our data into the Ministry of Tourism and Recreation's TREAM modeling system. And that model actually allows us to get some sense of the economic impact of a community event. All communities use this to project that economic impact, and you can see this year that the economic impact of Pelham Summerfest was about $3.8 million. Now remember what that really includes. That includes not just the commerce that occurred the days of Pelham Summerfest, it also includes things that were purchased by vendors, by the town, by others to prepare for Pelham Summerfest. It includes, the 5% of people who come from away, who don't live in Pelham or don't live necessarily in Ontario, but they come back to Pelham to visit family for the weekend. It's like a homecoming for them. They see their friends and family. They pay for gas on the way. They might pay for lodging on the way or food. And this model sort of takes all of that into account. So I know we get questions about this, and I'm happy to answer those if you have any today. But this model is recognized across the province, and so we use it to project the economic impact. I just had to look back at my notes because I think I gave this report to council in 2012. And I looked, and at that time we had just over 19,000 participants at Pelham Summerfest, and the impact was just over $1 million. So you can see how we've grown in terms of our impact in the area. So our attendance this year was approximately 43,000, and this is really entrance. This is a person came through the gates on any given day. I came through the gates 4 times. So keep in mind that this might not be 43,000 individuals if you put them all in a room, but rather it's entrance. And it's important because I know we get questions about this sometimes too. But the fact is, if I came 4 days in a row, I probably took advantage of the food vendors or the bar under the arches or any of the things going on here. And so I probably spent money on that day. If you take a look at the attendance here, you'll see that it was strong. Mother Nature played with us a bit on Saturday night with the rainstorm and the thunder and lightning. And we had to put our emergency management plan into effect on Saturday night, as many of you know. But otherwise, our attendance was very, very strong. Most people who attend Pelham Summerfest are from Pelham, about 60%, 35% from the adjacent municipalities, and about 5% or just over 5% from outside the region. Those are the people traveling here to see friends and family and have some fun. So these I'm not sure what happened to that slide. These are just some bar charts that show you the breakdown by day. So you can see from 2011, when we started off with just about 10,000 participants that day, we now have well over 40,000 entrants to the festival. This will show you the locations. Whoops, sorry. This is just the bar chart showing the origins of the people who visit Pelham Summerfest. So these are our sponsors. As I mentioned to you, without them, we really couldn't hold the festival that we do. We ask them for donations. Many of them give us actual cash. Others provide in-kind donations for a variety of things or some combination thereof. And without these sponsors, many of whom are local, we just wouldn't be able to run the festival the way that we do. And maintain that it's 4 free days of family fun, which is pretty important to the people of Pelham. So our in-kind contributions total just over $27,000, and that would be for materials, supplies, expertise, and other services that were provided by local businesses. And our volunteer time valuation is about $37,500 based on all the hours contributed to the festival. I don't have to tell you that social media is everything these days, and we're fortunate on staff to have people who really know their business. And so they've been working hard to increase the buzz and awareness of Pelham Summerfest. You can see that over 300,000 people took a look at one page or another that was posted about Summerfest. And in fact, this campaign this year won an award through .com as a gold medal winner for the campaign that was run for this year's Summerfest. We're very proud of that. And here are lots of smiling faces, and you've seen these faces many times. In fact, there's one right there, Len Doyle, who's a member of the Pelham Summerfest Working Group. These are the volunteers from service clubs and other groups that come forward every time we have a community event, most particularly at Summerfest. Without them, again, we could not operate this festival. You can see all the people that I'm sure you see all the time performing volunteer work for our community. Who wouldn't want to buy a drink from those smiling faces at the bar? That's what I say. So I want you to save the date next year. It's the third weekend in July 18th to the 21st, Pelham Summerfest. Be there or be square. And we want to thank, obviously, all the sponsors who come forward every year. We're looking for more sponsors all the time, so don't be surprised if you own a business in Pelham, if we approach you this year for your support. The volunteers, Pelham businesses who come out if they can and participate in Summerfest by opening up patios and their retail stores and so on. And others actually, they support us by dealing with the disruption that we create on Pelham Street for a few days. We know sometimes that it's not easy for them, but they've worked around it, and we certainly appreciate their support. The service clubs, again, have been with us since day one. In 2011, they were there, and they still are with us now. I want to thank, as a committee, we want to thank the staff in the town of Pelham. You've got great staff in the Recreation, Culture, and Wellness Division. Let me tell you, they work hard. They work really, really hard to make these events so special, and it's a real privilege to be working with them. We want to thank you, Council. We maybe don't thank you enough, but we should, because you support this event through your support formally and informally. It has become the very special signature event for Pelham that it is today. And then finally, the residents. Wow, if they didn't come, we wouldn't have a festival, and yet they do. They treat it as a homecoming, as Vicki has often said, meeting their friends, their neighbors, people they haven't seen in a while, and really just enjoying our town. So on behalf of the Summerfest Working Group, you can see we have a number of staff members that are on this event all through the year. We also have citizen volunteers. Len Doyle is here today with me. Remo Batista, Jill Primo, Paul D. I can never say his name properly, so I'll say Paul D. And Daniel Klimowitz, and of course, I'm on that committee as well. So we thank you very much for this, and I'm happy to answer any questions or receive any comments that you have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Clark. Before I hand it over to council, just couple of comments. I know that whenever I've gone to the festival and I get talking to people, it is amazing how many are outside, not only the town, but outside the region. I've talked to people from Hamilton, Burlington, around the Horn of the Lake and what have you. So it is a well-known festival, as you say, and it is always has been a great relationship between the committee and town staff. It's amazing how what gets accomplished when people that are willing to put their shoulder to the wheel can accomplish in the neighborhood. So it is a great little, a big festival in a little town.
Right, exactly.
And I'll turn to Council Wink first. And Councilor, I didn't realize that you were the compelling force for the Friday night country evening.
Well, it was a shot in the dark, and really it's really taken off, and just seeing the Friday numbers are just mind-blowing at this point in time. If you look at the Friday numbers, it's more than all day Saturday, and it's only running from 4 o'clock until 11 o'clock. So that's amazing. So, but through you, Mayor, to Bea and Lynn, and also Vicky and all your staff and the working group. I don't think people realize how much time and effort is involved in putting this thing together. And, you know, as Bea mentioned, the working group was together yesterday regarding this, and it's almost a full year-round commitment to get this event going, and I just appreciate everything that the working group has done and staff have done. It's an amazing event. It's put us on the map. It's our signature event of the year, and really appreciate everything that you and your group has done, and on behalf of council, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Lynn?
Thank you for those comments, Council Wink. Anyone on this side? Councilor Eckert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bea, congratulations on a great festival again and all those that helped you. I see Lauren in the back here, one of our staff members who works very hard at all of these things, and especially hard on Summerfest. Just to comment on the superhero training day, although he was well disguised in his Batman outfit, I'm sure it was Councillor Olson that was there taking part. I had the pleasure this year of having visitors from Sweden and their 2 young children, and we had missed Summerfest for her wedding a couple of years before, and we talked about it. And so when they came here, they were bound and determined that they wanted to go to this, and they had a riot. Okay. It was so, they couldn't believe it. In our small town, what we could put together, what you could put together in your committee. So thank you for that. A couple of issues, or not issues, or concerns, but I only got one beaver tail. I think the truck should be there longer. And secondly, on a more serious note, I spoke to our Director of Recreation, Mr. Van Ravensway, about it. On the Sunday, the car show, we probably should be blocking off any access in from around where the beer store is. Right. There was a number of people that we had all these beautiful vehicles down there and a lot of people walking around, and yet cars were able to come through. I was one of them that accidentally went in there, and I was surprised that I could get in there. I had my Triumph, so people thought I was part of the show, but I wasn't. But again, congratulations. What a great job you guys do, and good luck in 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Go to Councillor Hildebrand.
I also would like to echo the comments my fellow councillors have made to you, Bea, in your working group, and the staff and everybody involved. because I think everyone on staff as well spent some time volunteering. And it's a great event. So thank you so much on my behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Olson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. I can confirm that was me heading the Superman through the superhero costume.
Okay.
Some superheroes bring supervision, some bring super strength. I have super speed, that's what I bring, so. But I want to add my simple thanks to you and to your committee for the work you've done. It's terrific, and terrific to see the community support. And this year, we really enjoyed the buskers. That was a highlight for us, so,
Interesting. Good.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Again, just to wrap this up, 6 years in a row on the top 100, that says it all, basically. Just that kind of provincial recognition is fantastic, and like Councilor Wink says, definitely put the town on the map. Excuse me. Without any, I'm sorry. Oh, Councilor Nesnick, I'm sorry. Any comments?
Thank you. Yes. So just a comment again to echo everybody saying thank you. Well done. We were there 3 of the 4 days for sure, and both volunteering and then brought our grandchildren. And to me, I think the highlight was the free s'mores. Just a brilliant idea, and they were so tasty. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see those back again this year.
Thank you, Counselor. Without any further comments, I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive the 2023 Pelham Summerfest final report presentation from Mrs. Clark of the Pelham Summerfest Working Group for information. To Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments from any member of council? Not seeing any. All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. Again, Ms. Clark, thank you for your presentation and to all the work you and the committee does. Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 7, which is the associated report to the Summerfest presentation. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2023-0244 Pelham Summerfest 2023 final report for information, and that Council maintain the same level of funding for the 2024 Pelham Summerfest, being $15,000. And that Council declare Pelham Summerfest 2024, running from July 18th to the 21st of 2024, as a municipally significant event, and that the clerk be authorized to make an application for a special occasion permit for Pelham Summerfest from July 18th to the 21st of 2024, and that Council authorize a variance to the Town of Pelham Noise Bylaw 4454/2022 for the purpose of facilitating the Summerfest musical venues being conducted as part of the event from 4 p.m. on Friday, July 18th to 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 21st, 2024, and that Council authorize the following road closures: Pelham Town Square from the rear entrance to the Fonthill Plaza to 60 meters west from 4 p.m. Thursday to 10 p.m. of the same day. Pelham Town Square entrance off Pelham Street from 7 a.m. Friday, July 18th to noon on Monday, July 22nd, 2024. Pelham Street from Regional Road 20, Highway 20 to the south property line of 1419 Pelham Street from 7 a.m. Friday, July 18th to Sunday, July 21st, 2024. Pelham Street from the south property line of 1419 Pelham Street to College Street from 7 a.m. Saturday to 6 p.m. on the same day. And Pelham Town Square from 150 meters west of Station Street to its termination at the Fonthill Plaza entrance from 7 a.m. Sunday, July 21st, 2024 to 5 p.m. of the same day. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin, I was thinking of Mr. Councilor Eckert's comments, so I'll turn to the CAO. If we wanted to include the road closure for closing down for the car show on Sunday, the road that goes in front of the library, I don't know what the name of that road is, unfortunately. What would have to be done to take that into consideration?
Well, I think we have 2 ways we could do that. One, staff could simply bring that back to you in a report or memo at the next meeting. That's relatively easily done, unless either Director Van Ravensway or Mr. Cook feel they have an excellent description of that. in which case we could just modify the current motion. Either's viable.
Or Ms. Van Ravensway, any comments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if you'd note on the last paragraph, it does identify that area, although, excuse me, it says up to the Fontel Plaza entrance. We could just change that last paragraph because it's already closed.
Well, okay, excellent. So no problem then.
Should be no
Okay.
problem.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Mr. Zier, you concur? Yeah, okay, thank you, excellent. Thank you, Counselor, for bringing that forward. On this motion, any further discussion, obviously on the funding, on the road closures, whatever we see before us? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? None opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
Excellent. That brings you to item number 8, being adoption of council minutes. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. C 20-2023, regular council meeting, November 1st, 2023. To you, Mr. Mayor, for any errors or omissions.
Okay, after viewing the minutes, any council member have any errors or omissions to bring forward? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 9 of the agenda. If there's any items which council would wish to lift from the consent agenda, now would be the time to do so.
Okay, thank you. After viewing the consent agenda, does any counselor have any particular item that they would like to lift? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the consent agenda. If any members of council wish to speak on a topic on the consent agenda, now would be the time. And
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, we can go through it by groups.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So staff reports for routine nature of information or action.
Okay, any, I see Council Olson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. 10.1.1. This was the marketing tools and distribution. I was wondering if I could ask the CAO, are we meeting our statutory requirements for notification of people with the tools that we have available to us now and in this report?
To the CAO?
Council has received some closed session legal advice on that topic from the town solicitor in the past. I won't repeat that in public, but in essence, we feel we are meeting our statutory obligations, doing the best we can in a world where a year ago we had 2 printed weeklies in this community, and now we have none. Nevertheless, we feel like this tool, which I think will hit, most residents will receive sometime this week, is going to be quite effective, and it's both cost effective and what we're sending out is actually very attractive and has a lot of information in it. So I hope it's well received, but we're going to look for some feedback and aim at some continuous improvement. So it's an imperfect world, but this is the best solution to get something physically in the hands of people who have some interest in their community.
Councilor Olson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Council Olson?
Well, 10.1.3, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to talk about the financial statements up until the end of September. And the statements, they're a useful tool to see how we're making out as far as our expenses and our income. And they point to a pretty stronger position by the month. And it shows not only that we have more income than we thought we might have, and we've talked about that before as far as our upcoming budget, but it also shows that the expenses are kept in line very well. And It looks to me like the staff should be applauded for the effort they've made to keep these costs in line, but we now have a pretty good picture of what it takes in post-pandemic life for 9 months and coming up to the conclusion of the busy summer season, the outdoor activities and the road work. So I just wanted to point that out, and I wanted to ask Mr. Cook. I was looking at this is a pretty extensive list of capital jobs that we have underway, and I wanted to ask him specifically about Church Street and the paving of that, because I thought that program was pretty good, because the neighbors were well treated, and I had a lot of comments from people saying that the contractors were very cooperative, and they managed to get the closure of church in Canberra down to 2 days from 3 weeks. And I think that's worthy of mention as well. So I'd like to ask him what the plans are for the paving of Church Street.
Okay, thank you. To Mr. Cook.
Through the mayor, I believe the plans are for the final top coat of Church Street to be completed in 2024. We do have a little bit of work left to do with some servicing of a lot or two, so we'd like to wait until that gets done before we put the final top coat over.
Now, Councillor?
Thank you. And again to Mr. Cook, what's the status of the RFP for the vehicles from Niagara Region? Do we have an idea when those vehicles will become available, or when the quotes can come in?
To you, Mr. Cook.
Through the mayor, as far as I know, that the remaining vehicles in our fleet capital were tendered out with the region back in October. We're just waiting to hear back from our partners there at the region on what the results were of the tenders.
Okay.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor, for those questions and comments. Any other on this? I see Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 questions. One's for the Director of Planning, one for Director of Rec, and one for Mr. Cook. And I guess I'll start with Mr. Cook since we're talking about capital projects. One of the hot items to get done by Christmas is the Centennial washrooms. Can you update me on the status of where that stands?
Sorry. To Mr. Cook?
Yes, thank you. Through the mayor, the contractors on site, they're starting. They received their permits last week, and seems like they're ready to go and committed to getting this project completed.
Thank you. To the Director of Recreation, one of the things that I asked about last quarter was your advertising, because I noticed that the budget was 50 grand right now, and you've achieved 29,000. And there still seems to be a lot of space in the MCC that lacks advertising, where we could put things on that could generate cash. Can you update me on the status of advertising?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
To the Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so at the end of September, we were at 29,000. Since then, we've received 3 more commitments. So it's about 33,000 now, which the actual amount is, we were receiving 30,000 from the last contract. So we've met our goal in achieving that anyhow. What we're finding is the businesses are still having a challenge of recuperating from COVID. Prior to that, it was getting up and going, and now they're dealing with higher interest rates on their operating loans. So it is a challenge to fill everything, but you will see in the upcoming fees and charges, we're coming up with smaller advertising opportunities at a lesser price, which should open up more advertising in the facility.
Excellent.
Thank you, Director. And to the Planning Director, through you, Mr. Mayor. The question I have is, obviously, the building slowdown is the cause of the fact that we're down significantly from the budget level we should be at the end of September. What is the forecast going forward for the 24? Are we still going to be less? And because it seems as though the budgets we were able to maintain were due to the big buildings like the Mountain View homes, which produced a lot of cash, both for permits and for development. Thank you.
To the Director of Planning, Ms. Weens.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. So certainly the development industry has slowed down this year. And last year, when we put these budget estimates in, we certainly weren't able to predict that, we would have 4 interest rate hikes in a year. So that's been a factor here in terms of slowing down development for 2023. We expect that next year will probably be a little bit slower again. We do have kind of waiting in the wings. We have sites that are ready for building permits. And what we're hearing now is that there's not only is, the financial situation resulted in higher interest rates, it's really contracted the supply of financing for the developers. So they're really finding it challenging getting financing from the lending institutions to finance some of these bigger projects. And we have an apartment building right now that we had anticipated receiving building permits this summer, and they're saying they can't get any financing from a lending institution. So that's been another challenge. It's not just the high interest rates, it's been the contraction on the supply of finances to finance some of these projects as well. And that's, due to the high inflation rates, and everybody's trying to manage that and keep that in check. So we expect that will continue through to 2024. And it's impacting certainly our revenues on building permits.
I see from the report that the shortfall is covered from reserves. Are the reserves significant to cover the shortfalls?
Mr. Mayor, through you, yes, our building reserve is fairly healthy, and which is one of the good reasons why you build up that reserve during the good years so that you can ride out it when it's a little bit leaner. We've had a very strong October and November so far in building permits. So, I think by the time we get to the end of the year, I don't know that we'll hit our target in terms of revenue, but we've continued to, we'll come in, we'll be close. I don't think we'll hit it, but we're continuing to issue permits somewhere around the order of 15 to 20 a week. So, again, October and November have been very strong for us.
Aren't most of these permits you're issuing, though, for smaller, like single dwelling or that type of?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, yes, it's for singles and townhouses currently right now. And like I said, it's the larger projects that, quite frankly, the developers are having issues with in terms of securing financing. So it's some contraction in the supply of money through the financial institutions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, Councillor Nesnick.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder if Director of Rec, Ms. Van Ravensway, could comment on the notes or expand a little bit on the 2 lines. Materials and supplies are way over budget, as well as the contract services. And I did read the notes, but I just wonder if she could expand upon that a little bit, just to kind of give us an idea of why those are really elevated.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Councillor.
you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll turn to Director of Recreation, Ms. Van Ravensway.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a lot of the expenses are due to the registrations or materials that we are required to supply for programming, or additional contracted services would be the instructors, as well as certain maintenance that we would normally be providing. The pricing has gone up. But at the end of the day, our revenues have obviously increased to offset those costs.
Counselor?
Yeah, so just, I guess just materials, and so I understand now the contract that you did hire your, the folks who deliver the programs. So I guess, and materials and supplies, it just seems, to go 200% over budget on that is just quite elevated. So if we can kind of just keep an eye on those, not wasting materials and supplies. That's why I just wondered what materials and supplies kind of are they like consumables? Are they cleaning supplies? Are they just that sort of thing? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. I'll turn to the Director of Finance, Ms. Quinlan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Note 8, referring to the material and supplies, says that the increase is due to the inventory accumulated during COVID. So during COVID, we received grant money, and what we did as one of the strategies is that we built up our inventory for a lot of the supplies for the MCC, a lot of safety supplies, cleaning supplies, and so now that inventory has been depleted, and now we had to purchase more. So I think that when we did the budget, we thought that the inventory would last longer and we wouldn't have to purchase as much, but it looks like that the inventory was used up quicker, and now we had to purchase the materials that we normally use, which is the cleaning supplies, the other material supplies for the facility.
Thank you. Counselor?
Okay, so thank you very much. Just moving forward, I guess we just want to maybe put a program in place or have a conversation with staff to just be extra tight on some of the use of materials so that we're not wasting them as needed, and try and keep those costs down. That would just be my recommendation to keep in the forefront of everyone's minds. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you, Council. I think if I may put one last comment to it, what Ms. Van Ravensway was saying in a nutshell was we have to spend money to make money. So the registration and all those costs were offset by the increase in the revenue. But thank you for catching that, and something to, like you say, keep an eye on going forward. Thank you. Any other questions on those, on that group? Oh, Councilor Eckert.
Just on that topic, echo the comments already made. I'm assuming from reading other reports from the MCC that you've prepared and then looking at this report, many of the programs, as the mayor has said, have been extremely successful. And the more people we have taking part, then these costs go up. And combined with, as the treasurer said, thinking that our reserves were going to last longer, the problem was our programs were so successful, we used them up faster. Am I making a proper assumption there?
To the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is true. It's sorry. It's supply and demand. So you don't want waiting lists, so you have additional registrations. You also need to have additional supplies. Right now, the MCC, by the end of the year, we will hit 600,000 people coming into the building. It is a lot going on. So the other thing is, we do have our servery and the bar sales, and which is, that is very popular, and we've had to also purchase additional than what we expected. When I see the revenues being offset by the expenses, that's what I'm good with. So, and the amount of people that we're servicing. And you can go there at any time during the day and see the seniors, and it just gets to be busier and busier.
Thank you, Director. To the council? Okay, excellent. Thank you, Councilor Eckert. Any other comments? Not seen. Madam Clerk?
Yeah, the next category council could consider is advisory committee minutes for information.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? I see Councilor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I notice in the minutes that there's a Region of Niagara Agricultural Economic Development Action Plan presentation, and I wonder if that could be made available to the members of council as well, and even attendance at that meeting. I'd like to go to that.
To the clerk.
Absolutely, we can note that and provide a copy to the councillor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this group? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items listed on the November 15th, 2023 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion, council? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. That brings us to item 12.1, presentation and consideration of reports by members of council. Our first presentation this morning is an update from Councillor Olson regarding Niagara Regional Transit. And Councillor Olson does have a presentation that I will share for him.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're waiting, I'll just present a couple of facts about transit, recent facts about transit. And according to published reports coming from the United States at this time, the number of teenagers holding driver's licenses dropped 24% from the years 1995 to 2021, which is a trend indicating that people are driving less in proportion to the number of people. And at this point, only 40% of all teenagers in the United States have driver's licenses. They're increasingly drawn to transportation options like active transportation, e-scooters, e-buses, and microtransit like we have in Pelham here. That's what they're drawn to, and of course, mass transit. Their concerns are the high cost, climate concerns, and driving anxiety. And research shows that in Canada now, the number of people riding on the on-demand buses like we have in Pelham, 40% of them are 24 years old and others. So the trend is away from individual cars for individuals, although sometimes you'd wonder when you look around the parking lots and on the road. Public transit is a priority for addressing climate change, affordability, employment, and the housing pressures and the population growth. We live in an aging population, and I can tell you that I expect I will outlive my driving privileges by 5 years. So what am I going to do in that time when I want to live at home? And women have a better chance of living longer than I have, so what are they going to do? I don't really want to leave my house and go and live in some kind of an institution as long as I can still do it. And still attend Superman events and things like that. So we set out to do this in the most cost-effective way that doesn't leave people waiting around. The fixed route schedule for Pelham is just not feasible to reach the rural areas. And in some ways, the rural areas were like a transit desert. And I'm thinking of North Pelham and all the rural areas. And there's about 5 things that we can do to expand access to public transit. We want to make sure that more people have availability, and we're kind of limited right now by the number of vehicles we have. I'll get into that when I get to the financial statements. Increase the efficiency, and there's hope that some of the new AI programs and things are all now beginning to show that it's possible to predict need and demand and increase scheduling. And we're going to be reducing environmental impact. And one of the things I would point out to you is the difficulty that we have in replacing our fixed bus fleet, which is fairly large. It's It's something like 138 40-foot and 60-foot buses, mostly diesel. The difficulty we have in replacing them with electric buses or hybrids, it's going to be a lot easier to replace these vans and things that we have with electric vehicles that will help cut down on congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. And I can just about guarantee you that the environmentally friendly vehicles will come to the on-demand fleet a lot faster than it will for the other fleet. And we're going to use more technology, and we're going to use more planning as a priority for fixing things. At this time, we have an acceptance rate. The on-time, the wait time is only 13 minutes now. The average rating is 4.8 out of 5, so people are satisfied. And they're willing to wait around, and they understand the inconvenience of having to wait a few minutes, but they understand the benefit as well. And nearly 30% of the rides are now shared, which is a future thing, because if the rides are shared, you basically have the potential to double up the number of people that can use transit, if people are willing to do that. Now, our financial statements, and this is timely because I put this out here. This slide shows the tax base for the tax allocation for this year, and I note that Pelham has a decline in taxes of 16%, and I wanted to put this in front of council while we're considering our budget allocations for the year. And I thought it was timely. Then I find that this was published, and it's the subject of some controversy, so it's timely that I have this in front of you today. At the present time, the budget is some $82 million for the commission, and we have to replace a number of buses which have reached their limit of age. I think out of the 138 or so, we have 33 budgets that are over 15 years old. The optimum age of a bus is 12 years old, and for the paratransit and the other ones which we've now accumulated or added to the fleet, those have a age of about 8 years, so they have to eventually be replaced. The money that for the new buses comes from reserves and from the government grants, and that's going to help us replace them. But it's going to increase improve the fleet and reduce the amount of maintenance. This chart here, the significant part of this chart, it shows the size of the labor bill that we have, and it of course dominates the number of the costs of operating the system. The one thing I want to point out to you is the administrative cost, which is at 3%. And I did a little bit of a study to look at this, and this administrative cost typically in transit systems is somewhere between 3 and 6%. So we're probably best in class for the amount of administration we have. We're also saddled with a fairly old infrastructure because when it was uploaded to these transit systems were uploaded to the region, they didn't come in the best of condition, and the buses didn't come in the best condition, and I guess that's understandable. We are investing $16 million in new buses, and that will be for 19 new buses out of the 33 that need replacement. In addition to that, we're repairing another 3 buses the life can be extended at a cost of about $2 million to extend the life from 13 years to 15 years. So this is the capital forecast for the years, and I draw your attention to the amount of money this is going to take going forward, because the 2024, 2023-24 has been a catch-up year, and these are the costs that are associated with running the system. If we want a system, this is what it costs, and you can see that there's quite a bit of money going to be expended. I believe, in looking at this, we will we will solve the sequencing, the computer problems, and a lot of those things are coming up because they have been solved in a number of places already. So this is where we're going to be putting the money, is into more technology in planning, and going forward. It looks to me like we broke even this year, and probably have a surplus of about $1 million, but this is where we stand at the moment. So I'll leave it at that and take questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks for a very detailed report, Counselor. Before I open up the council, so the 13 minutes wait time, boy, that's, I can't see anyone complaining about that. Will do you think as ridership goes up, you're going to have to buy more of those little vans, obviously? Is that obviously in the plans?
The constraint is the number of vehicles we have, and we need more vehicles.
Yes.
And I think if, there's so many things that can be done with on-demand. We could be picking up kids at school and taking them to grandparents. We can be doing a lot of things, and we just don't have the vehicles to do that. The contract for the on-demand service comes up in, I believe it's July of next year. So we'll be conducting all kinds of community interactions and to develop a plan for that. But it appears to me that you could even go to the extent of replacing school buses with on-demand if it could be organized properly. It's going to take a variety of vehicles, and I don't imagine that the vans will always be the vehicle we have, because we now have we're now doing the paratransit, and we're doing the WeGo, and we have a lot of work to do on the connections, and we have a lot of work to do on getting the fares down. But, that's 9 months into existence, and we're starting to get on top of things, I believe.
One last thing, if I may, before I go to council. It's funny that you mentioned the WeGo. So that's under your wing now?
Yes.
Yes. So considering the vast crowds that went to Niagara Falls this year, that must also be a stretch point, I would think. Any comments on that?
Well, actually, the ridership is up is over above pre-COVID levels now.
Wow.
And that's in common with a lot of places in Ontario, but the average inflationary increase over year has been 13% for transit across Ontario. Some places have gone up like 16%.
Excellent.
Because the cost drivers are all fuels and repairs and supplies and that type of thing.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. I'll open up now. Any other councillor have questions? Councillor Wink?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Olson, for your report. Just a question on the requisition for 2024 by municipality. It shows a regional assessment allocation for the town of 732,000. So that's buried in our regional tax dollars, I assume. There's also something that shows a special levy. So is there an additional levy going to be assessed to each individual taxpayer as a result of this?
Perhaps, if not you, Councillor, you want me to go perhaps to the Director of Finance?
Please, yeah.
Okay, to the Director of Finance, any discussion on another special levy as we had the last year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of anything either, but
No.
I am aware of the fact that our allocation has gone down. I think it was $166,000 which is approximately 1% on the tax rate. I believe that's right, but.
Yes,
anyway.
and again, they had a presentation on council, and we didn't hear anything of that at council region.
Yeah, I don't think I really got an answer to that.
No?
Is the region looking at doing a special assessment for transit on the taxpayer's tax bill?
To you then.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of the regional taxes that we collect, there is the component that's new as of 2023 related to transit. So it's in it's in the existing property taxes that the taxpayers pay.
Okay, so then that's going to continue
Yes,
each year?
yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions to Councillor Olson's report? Councillor Eckert.
Just to follow up on Councillor Wink's question, and I don't know if this is the controversy that Councillor Olson was referring to, but on the lines of the special levy, there was discussion, I thought, at least I read in the paper that there was, and that they've sent it back to the Transit Committee to look at other ways rather than add another special levy. And part of that was fare increases, I think, and perhaps putting off purchases of some of the equipment that they've put in for buses, replacement and things like that, extending some life out so they didn't spend that. And then the argument is that raising fare increases kind of defeats the purpose of the regional transit. We might end up with less people using it if we put the fare up too high. Did I read that right, Councillor Olson?
To Councillor Olson?
Yes, thank you. Yes, our transit meeting is on the 21st of November, so the notion was that we could reduce cost, and we've been through this budget pretty tightly, and I don't think there's any hope of reducing advertising and raising fares, because we've come back, and this is an alternative for people. Once they choose the alternative to use public transit or mass transit, they don't make other alternative arrangements. So this is it for a number of people, and the commission is very reluctant to raise fares for exactly the reason that Councillor Eckert said. And it's growth, and I'm not going to say that the budget is perfect any more than I'd say our budget is perfect, but it's close enough, and the items that are looked at, and the commission has proved to be able to reduce its costs, and we came in with a surplus this year, so I'm pretty optimistic that what we've looked at is pretty accurate. And it had an unanimous support of the commission. I don't expect there's going to be a change, but maybe there will be.
Excellent. Councillor? Thank you. Just if I can comment on that. So I take it, generally speaking, buses are to you what infrastructure is to this council and to regional council. It's just if you start not spending the money, if you don't spend it this year, then 2 or 3 years down the road, all of a sudden the balloon gets a lot bigger. It's the same thing we're experiencing at regional council. I mean, we're talking there was mentioning of an 8% budget, and there's a lot of talk of saying, well, let's look at infrastructure, and the bottom line is I believe it's 45% of the infrastructure the region looks after is in poor condition. So if we keep putting off the infrastructure spending, kicking it down the road, somebody's toilet isn't going to be flushing, or the water isn't going to be running, or there's going to be costs to be associated with it, as we all know sitting at this table. So I was there when the recommendation was to throw it back to the commission. I believe we also do the same with just about any board that comes to us, whether it be the police board or what have you. We do a lot of questions, as we should as councillors, but myself, I know that the people that sit on the boards or commissions, I know you guys feel the pressure, and I, for one, fine. It goes back to the commission to take another look at it. But I appreciate the fact that that the numbers have already been ground down, and that this is probably the number that we'll have to live with. It's just when regional council voted for transit, it was unanimous. I think the only, well, not unanimous, the only municipality that didn't vote for it was Waynfleet, understandably so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Waynfleet didn't opt into the transit plan. But yeah, everybody else wanted it, and we knew at the time that it was transit was going to be an expense. It's like a hockey arena. You don't make any money on them, but it's a public service. So you got to do what you got to do. And again, any other questions on the report? Not seeing any. Council Olson, again, this council thanks you. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. I keep forgetting to look up into the screen. Sorry, Councilor Nesnick. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so thank you. So just back to, maybe I guess this would be through you, Mr. Mayor, a question to the treasurer, following up on Councilor Wink's comments. So just to clarify, Pelham residents will be paying $1.68 million for transit. Is that what that totals up, the 732 plus the 952?
To the Director of Finance.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have to pull up that. Can you pull up that slide again? Like, Council Olson, if you can help me out there. I think it's 900 and something.
In addition to the 732 or just 952?
Well, it's $166,000 less than what has been levied this year. Is that correct, Council Olson? Yes. So right now, whatever the taxpayers are paying related to the region, the transit, for 2024, it'll be $166,000 less in total. So let's see, Barb, what do we have? $952,000 for 2024.
So the 952 is the figure. It's not plus anymore.
No, that's the total figure.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Eckert. Be it resolved that Council receive the report from Councillor Olson regarding the Niagara Regional Transit Update for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at this time? Not seeing any. All in favor? I don't see any against. Unanimous. Motion passes. No, carry. I'm sorry? No.
Through Mr. Mayor, that brings us to item 12.1.2, which is an update from Councillor Nisnik regarding the Pelham Senior Advisory Committee.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Nesnick.
Yes, so just hoping everybody read that. Our Seniors Advisory Council, it's a really hardworking group, very invested in making sure seniors get the best quality of life here in Pelham. So just in conjunction with the staff at the MCC who work tirelessly also to look for grants and then support our seniors in our community. So any questions on that? If not, we can just move forward. It was just a little update of our work through the year.
Thank you. I see we do have questions. Councillor Eckert.
Just one question for you, Councillor Nisnik. I was at the seniors event at the MCC, and you and one of your committee members, Pat O'Hara, was there. Do we have any numbers from that? Boy, that was it was busy. A lot of booths set up. Seemed to be very well attended and well received. Any numbers do we have? I see maybe Director Van Ravensway has her hand up. So
I'll go to the director. Again, I was at that event, and I'll back up the councillor's statement that definitely was crowded, and great to see so many people asking questions of the vendors. Any other comments to the director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we did have approximately, people were coming and going. Not everyone stayed for lunch, so it was difficult to keep a hand on it. But the door numbers were just somewhere around 300 people that came in during that period of time. So, yeah, it was very well attended.
Thank you. Any further comments from you on that, Councilor Nesnick?
No, not with regards to numbers or data, just that it was a really nice event. And I think the seniors who did attend by word of mouth, I went last year as well, and I think was a little better attended this year. So it must be word of mouth getting out and being successful.
Excellent. Thank you. One last time, any other questions to the councilors on her report? I don't see any. Thank you for putting that report together, Councillor.
Welcome.
And I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Eckert. Be it resolved that Council receive the report from Councillor Niznik regarding the Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Our next item is 12.1.3, which is a verbal update from Councillor Hildebrand regarding the update from the AMO Municipal Energy Symposium.
Thank you. Councillor Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Energy is a complex subject. In my view, very little has been reported on the subject and the direction this province is going. The main topic the province talks about is 90,000 homes per year. I had the opportunity to represent Pelham at AMO's Energy Symposium on November the 2nd and 3rd in Toronto. I went there for two purposes: to hear the province's plan, hear from the experts, consumers of electricity, and to connect with AMO's LAS leaders and their hedging expert Edison Energy team. The purpose for this was to prepare for natural gas hedging report, which will come to council at the next meeting on December the 6th. Both were excellent meetings and were well worth the trip. The lineup for speakers on the Energy Symposium was impressive. It started off with the Minister of Energy, Todd Smith, presenting the direction. The Independent Electric Operator System Director was there. The EDA, which is the Electrical Distribution Association President, was there. All the local hydro distributors, Indigenous Power, their president, Energy Storage Canada, Electrification Transition was there. President of Energy Council of Canada, President of the Bottom Parts Manufacturers were there, head of Smart Cities, large generators were there, electric generators were there of diesel engines, because their challenge is to convert large diesel generators into natural gas, and so on. Anyway, I want to summarize the talk by Energy Smiths at this conference. Ontario Energy's plan for 2050 requires doubling the electricity generating capacity. His talk was urgent care. Water is life, like electricity is to quality of life. The province of Ontario is embarking on a transitional journey to meet the future energy needs of Ontario. The ambitious plan aims to double or possibly 2.5 times generate capacity. To achieve this, the province intends on employing a multifaceted approach that encompasses the short-term solution of gas plants, longer-term SMRs at Darlington. These were announced in July. It also dealt with nuclear upgrades they plan, technology improvements, grid and modernization, and policy initiatives. The report provides an overview of Ontario's energy plan for 2050 and strategies they plan on employing. The message was urgent because it takes 2 to 3 years to get a gas plant operating, 6 years to get an SMR, which is a small modular nuclear reactor, operating. And especially since it's the first operational of a SMR in Canada. In the world, there's only 3 small nuclear SMRs operating since 2022. One's in China, one's in Russia, and one's in India. Ontario right now has a total generating capacity of about 40,000 megawatts. The nuclear plant produces about 13,144 megawatts, or 34% of the power. These 4 new nuclear generating capacities announced in July will only produce 1,200 megawatts. That's only enough for 1.2 million homes, with their first operation in 29. Electric usage by category is 39% commercial, 31% residential, and 30% industrial. With Ontario's vision to requiring double or 2.5 times the energy generation, these goals need the support of every facet, including municipalities. They talked about the mining operation. They're projecting to open 10 new mines. Each mine employs 300 to 400 people. The electricity required by a mine is the equivalent of a town of Sault Ste. Marie or Thunder Bay. It's a lot of power. And right now, a lot of those mines are powered by electrical generators produced by Cummins, and they are diesel generators. They're working hard. Cummins and Hitachi were there to answer to the government. Why haven't they got a natural gas generator? And they're having problems with the technology to generate that amount of power out of a natural gas because diesel has so much more energy in it. So that's a challenge. So the first step the government announced was the gas plants. They said this is the first step, and people have to realize that natural gas is 90% cleaner than diesel fuel, for example. This is where CARE comes in, because CARE is the politics of building new power generating facilities, as we've seen in the past by the Liberal government trying to build a plant and then pulling back when the votes weren't there because of the gas plant. The government will not place a gas plant in a municipality that does not want it. However, the municipality has no say in existing gas plant expansion. Give Thorold, for example. Well, this wasn't mentioned, but I know I was sitting with the councillor of Thorold. They already have one gas plant serving as a peaker plant for the Niagara grid. The plan was to put another gas plant in there to help the Niagara grid to meet the growing demand of power in the area. Obviously, the council in Thorold 100% unanimously voted down not having a peaker plant.
So if I can interrupt you there, so what is going to happen there? If the council voted it down, will they get overruled by the province now?
No, the province will not overrule the municipality.
Wow.
However, if there is an existing gas plant, they will expand it.
Okay, but I thought that's what was happening in Thorold.
No.
Oh,
Brand new plant.
okay, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, feel free to ask and interrupt anytime. On the other hand, Windsor Council approved 2 new gas plants to service the greenhouse industry because Essex County has a huge demand and the peaker plants are needed there, and their council unanimously supported this, and the government recognized them for supporting it. So you can see how the provincial government is in a tough position, making sure we have enough power, especially with all electrification. And they also noted that, they up in Algoma Steel and Sault Ste. Marie, they mentioned the changeover from going from a traditional blast furnace going to an electric arc furnace there, 300 megawatts of power. That's a huge amount of power when you think one of those small nuclear reactors is only going to produce 300 megawatts of power. The extent of the grid power and all the electrification that's happening is huge. I'm going to be talking later internationally and giving you a view of what's happening internationally in some nations. Technological advances. In line with the energy plan, Ontario will invest in technology advancements to increase energy efficiency and decrease emissions. This will involve research and development of energy storage solutions, as we've seen in battery storage solutions and the likes. Communities were the highlight of energy. They gave some examples of some communities that were highlights of what they have done. Waterloo Region Water and Wastewater Treatment Plant. They actually have a biomass firing boiler that the biomass comes obviously from the sewage, and it produces enough power to fire that complete facility. Middlesex was the next community there giving their examples. Obviously, they talked about the Coldstream Fire Hall, which we've all heard about, that was built in 2018. It has solar and geothermal. It produces enough power for the fire hall that they built and also for the municipal building attached to it. And it was, they said it would only cost them 3% more than a traditional build. Amazing. And then there was a great farming operation. This is great farming news. I couldn't believe this one. Stanton Farms has over 100 dairy farms operation. Stanton Farmhurst, his daughter became a PhD in, I wouldn't say farming, but basically she's connected with Waterloo and Guelph. And it generates enough RNG gas, and it's piped into the Ontario's Enbridge natural gas network to power 1,300 homes. They have a 20-year agreement with Energy. They produce 3 million cubic feet of natural gas. We in our town, with all our buildings together, only use 300,000 cubic meters of gas. Isn't that amazing that what they're doing from having a dairy operation and using the residue,
Yeah.
if you want to call it residue?
So that would be a biodigester, right?
Yes.
Yes, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing, yeah.
It's amazing, and I guess they're having tours, and it's a high-tech farming operation. It's
Yeah.
not a traditional farming nation. And then they talked about grid modernization and policy initiatives. Obviously, Minister Smith said it's very difficult these days in the positions he's in, knowing he has to modernize the grid and the opposition he's politically getting, because it's a very difficult situation. Because they're trying to double the electrical generation capacity, and all the experts there are saying this is a minimum. It may be 2.5 times. So it's the biggest challenge they faced in electrification in 100 years. In conclusion, the Ontario Energy Plan that the government has to commit to doubling the capacity is what they're committed to. Let me just go around the world for a minute and talk about some other nations that have had problems and are in problem. Germany just recently, on October the 4th, approved bringing coal-fired plants back online after they'd been mothballed. These were the worst coal-firing plants that they had, mainly because they had gone too quickly, in my view, and they'd shuttered their gas plants and their nuclear plants. And with the war, they get no more natural gas from Russia, so to keep their people from freezing, they're going to have to start up one, if not two, huge coal plants that just spew the stuff into there. The USA on November the 8th announced the SMR program in Utah was curtailed. And that was going to be their first nuclear generation, small nuclear generations. That was curtailed. The Dutch firm that was going to do all the wind turbines on the east coast of Atlanta to produce power into the grid, they just pulled the plug. So, and the U.S. is facing the same critical situation with their grid that we're facing in Ontario. So that's my upgrade, and thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to go to this conference.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Council, for another thorough report. So interesting on that dairy thing. I know that down in California, the dairy farms down there, which of course are massive dairy farms, and they're being approached by people wanting to do the same thing, put these biodigesters in, because it is definitely an untapped source of energy, that's for sure. So it's interesting to see that is indeed happening in Ontario, I believe that one farm was. Yeah.
That's right. The other interesting thing, I was sitting with the city of Windsor as well, and I asked them, I said, do the people know that you've got a gas-fired biomass system at your sewage system, and that's producing the power? Do they know they have a gas plant?
Yeah. No.
And they said they just didn't want to say very much because, you know, the opposition, well, we knew the opposition that Thorold got from,
Yeah.
because there's two ditches on every side of the road. It's hard to go down the road.
Down the middle.
Yeah.
So when you were, before I open this to council, so in order to get that electricity at the switch, like you say, you can either generate it or buy it. And I remember talking to someone from Ontario Hydro about 2 or 3 months ago, and they said there was going to be a big announcement of them purchasing hydro, and I asked her if it was from Quebec, and she said, well, she didn't want to say that. So during your meetings, they talked a lot about generation. Was there any talk about bringing in outside power to the province?
None whatsoever.
Okay, wow. And yet, at the same time, a lot of those figures seem to be pie in the sky. True? As far as generation goes?
I think when you look at all the electrification that's happened, and you look at the nation like Germany, we are in trouble in terms of generation capacity.
Yeah.
I don't
Anyway.
think that's pie in it. Like every expert that was there from all around Canada was saying that's Ontario's situation.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're the only province facing that issue.
Okay, excellent. Enough. Thank you for that, Council. Any other questions to the Council on his report? Okay, not seeing any, I turn to the clerk. Thank you again, Councilor.
Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive the verbal update from Councillor Hildebrand regarding the AMO Municipal Energy Symposium for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. One last time, any further questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to item 12.2, staff reports requiring action. Our first item is 12.2.1, tree maintenance summary report and policy update. And I have a motion put forth by Councillor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2023-0252, tree maintenance program summary report and policy update for information, and that Council amend invasive species management policy S802-03 to add Appendix A, which establishes the invasive species action threshold for oak wilt to be set at 1 confirmed case. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Comments on this item? Councilor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see in the report that the cost of the windstorm was some $80,000. Is that correct? What was that for? It describes emergency work, and I don't imagine that. And that was for in response to 2 storms, I think. Yeah. Okay. My question is, my real question is, looking at the response to oak wilt. Now we're faced with another infestation coming from for spruce trees, I believe it is, and I don't know the name of it. But what is the signal, I guess, that we have to take? We have to go into action. Is it one case reported to the Food Inspection Agency, or is that what it is?
To you, Mr. Cook.
Do I have the right agency even?
Yeah, through the mayor. So our response would be in conjunction with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, who's the agency responsible for invasive species. One case would be enough to get their attention as we're trying to prevent the spread of oak wilt within Canada, as it just arrived here. So yeah, so we set that as one confirmed case of oak wilt before we start to intervene as a community.
To you, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I see that we removed 16 trees and now we've replaced them with some 69 trees, and we still have more to do. I guess I want to say that the planting in North Pelham Park was a real success as well.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Councillor Eckert.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Cook, the tree replacement, I see there's 32.5 is allocated to tree planting. That's for the ones taken off of boulevards and things like that. Are we going to replace all of those trees this year, or what's the goal there?
Mr. Cook?
Yes, through the mayor. So we do spend out that budget regardless of how many trees we removed. So we aim to meet the policy requirement of replacing trees based on their diameter, but we often plant far more than the policy suggests. The ones that are replanted in boulevards, it sometimes takes a number of years to remove the stump and then replace the ones in those specific locations, but they are always kept on a list, as well as a number of other locations where people are requesting trees. So we try to accommodate as many people as we can, but we do tend to use up that entire budget for replanting.
Okay. The reason for my question is I've had a couple of people call me on a couple of different streets, one of them being Concord. There was one or maybe two trees removed from the boulevard this year, and they've been wondering. I know Mr. Marsh said that they were on a list and they thought they would get to them this year, but that may or may not happen.
Through the mayor, I'm not entirely familiar with the two trees on Concord that were removed, but if we did remove them from those locations, we will definitely endeavor to replace them within this year or next.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, Mr. Cook, when the town resumes or takes over, assumes actually a subdivision, and the trees have been planted by the developer, is that 1 or 2 year guarantee those trees? Like a tree dies within 2 years of us assuming it. Does the developer pick that up? Do you know the time frame in that? I believe there is a time frame.
Through the mayor, I'm not entirely familiar with the warranty on trees for new development, but I believe it is within. I think as soon as we assume them, we take responsibility of those trees.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have a motion on the floor. I'd be happy to repeat it if you'd like.
Please, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0252 tree maintenance program, and that council amend invasive species policy to add Appendix A establishing the invasive species action threshold at 1 confirmed case.
Okay, yeah, great. Sorry. Okay, all those in favor? Don't see any opposed. Motion passes. Thank you.
Excellent. That brings us to item 12.2.2, potential pilot project for personal alcohol consumption in town parks. The associated recommendation reads, be it resolved that council receive report 2023-0249, potential pilot project for personal alcohol consumption in town parks for information, and that council provide direction to staff to proceed with option blank identified in this report. And to you, Mr. Mayor, there are 4 options identified within the report.
Thank you. And before I turn to council, I'll have our CAO speak to the matter.
This report is before council as a staff initiative. Certainly, the City of Toronto is the best known municipality in the country for having run a pilot project this year in, I can't remember, a dozen, maybe 20 parks, something of that order. It's our information belief that certainly it's been tried out in Western Canada this year as well, and that next calendar year, we believe a number of Ontario municipalities are going to be running pilot projects not dissimilar to this. So staff considered and looked how that might apply to Pelham, and using, Toronto had very well-developed criteria, and we tried to apply those relative to a small community, and thought there were 2 parks that might be good candidates were this to be of interest to council. And that is, of course, one immediately outside this building and the other in Fenwick. And they are highly visible areas with public bathrooms, well-lit, garbage collection, et cetera, recycling collection, et cetera. So a number of the requirements that the City of Toronto required to run its pilot projects. I would also point out that the town of Pelham has an alcohol industry. There's a local brewery, there is a nascent winery, one can purchase cider in the area, et cetera. And we live in a world where it is lawful to consume cannabis in the public parks, but it is not lawful to have a glass of wine or a glass of beer during a picnic. And it's not lawful because of a town bylaw, to be clear. So whether this is the right decision or not for the community is, of course, entirely your decision. It is possible. We are suggesting that there may well be, we're not attempting to roll this out everywhere, and we're suggesting a pilot for 1 year wherein we would collect some data about garbage and recycling, about police calls, about bylaw complaints and enforcement. Certainly this community's had, well, it's been running very, very, very successful public festivals and Thursday night gatherings well before I got here. It's got an excellent honorable history about that, and we heard our presentation this morning with very, very few alcohol-related complaints or problems, behavioral issues. So we suspect that this may well be quite successful. Locals have demonstrated many times and oft that they can responsibly, and those are all licensed events, they can responsibly consume alcohol in public spaces. But again, decision is entirely in your hands, Council. We think there is some merit to trying in 2 locations, not in every municipal park, just 2 of them, and they are ones that are well served by bathrooms, et cetera. With that being said, there are 4 options in the report, and of course, one option is do nothing and not approve, so as you will. I think Director Van Ravensway and myself, well, we're all prepared to answer questions. Ms. Sturton played a considerable role, of course, in the legal analysis and being able to recommend what can and can't be done. And with that, I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, for those words. Now open it to council. Comments from councilors on the proposed pilot program. And if you look on the report, there is indeed 4 options. And if you do speak to it, I would like to obviously hear your comments as to what option you would deem the one that your favorite. So any councillor, go ahead, Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little bit familiar with the Toronto experiment when they did this, but I believe one of the parks that they picked was their Centennial Park, which is quite a different park than the ones we have. Our Peace Park is more of an adult park. I would call it an adult park, and it is a confined space. And our Centennial Park, as is seeing the size of it, is also a confined space in some ways. And we really should have a look at the comparison, because I don't think that what works in Toronto is necessarily going to be working in Pelham. And I think we also need to be cognizant of the fact that we're making all these efforts to make sure that Centennial Park is a safe place, as all parks. It's the only one where we have the number of facilities we have, and maybe we just need a place where we don't have alcohol.
So, okay, thank you for that.
My option would be do nothing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wink.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we need to be a leader in this at this point in time, and let's see what other municipalities are doing. I have concern about Centennial Park, particularly in May. We had a report a few months ago with respect to the Fenwick Fair and the issues that we had there. Looking at the time frame, Fenwick Fair would fit into that May 1st, October 31st. And, with the carnies in there and whatever, I think we're just asking for trouble if we allow that at that point in time. I also am concerned about alcohol around children, like excessive alcohol around children. So I look at Summerfest on Saturday and Sunday in Peace Park. Yes, on Sunday it's licensed, on Saturday it's not. when we have most of the kids there. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to have a whole bunch of alcohol floating around in Peace Park. We do a good job on controlling that, so I'd have issues with respect to Summerfest. You know, I just came back from Fort Lauderdale, and I made an observation to my wife, and I said, like, there used to be a time when people were sneaking stuff on the beach and having a beer. I said, I'm not sure if bylaws have changed or whatever, but now everyone is openly doing it. They're not being silly about it. But, you know, I don't think we need to be one of the forerunners in having a pilot project at this point in time. Maybe in a couple of years, let's see what other municipalities' experiences are going to do. I hate like heck to have bad experiences in our pilot program when we're on the leading edge of this, and I don't think we need to be on the leading edge. And quite frankly, I don't want to see a bunch of baseball teams in Centennial Park with adults with cases of beer on the bench. I know at some parks it happens. I know at West Park it happened a lot, and back in the day, and I was on one of those teams that would do that. But, you know, is it appropriate? At this point in time, I don't think it is.
So that's probably where you picked up your love for country music.
No, I hated it then.
So just to be clear, I had a conversation, quite a conversation with the CEO on this. If we do go with some kind of a pilot program, it's also council's power to stop it whenever we want it. If we had a bad experience in the first week of May or the first week of June or whatever, and bylaw came back to us, or someone from staff said, listen, this isn't working, we have to shut it down. We can shut it down just as fast as we join the pilot program. So that is one aspect of it, that we can stop it as easily as we can start it. In my talks with the CEO, it's become such a norm. I forgot all about the fact that anyone can go out and light a joint, light up cannabis in all of our parks. And I know when that first came out, people were a little concerned, more than concerned, that, wow, how's that going to go through? But as far as I know, I mean, when you go to Saturday night experience or Thursday night, I'm sorry, what have you, as you walk through the park any time, it doesn't seem to be I'm not saying it's not a problem in the bigger cities, but it doesn't seem to be a problem here. Myself, I thought I was open to doing a pilot program. I don't know, they do it all over in Europe, I realize. Do we have to be leading edge, like the councillor says? Perhaps not. Maybe the town isn't ready for it, but our Thursday night experience, 5,000 people at that park, and we have no problems at all in that. I'll go to the director. Have we ever had any problems with excessive drinking let's open it up to any town events that you can remember or that you could tell this council about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We really have not had any issues. Just to be clear, when you're talking about the this report, the personal consumption report, if there is an event, this report would not be in place. Like this, during an event, someone could not bring their own and personally consume. That's a different, when a SOP is involved, well, then the SOP trumps.
So if I may interrupt, so at the carnival in Fenwick, say, that wouldn't be allowed anyway.
So the carnival does not have a SOP, so that is something that would have to be identified and controlled at, yeah, that's a whole different situation, Centennial Park.
Okay.
In the Peace Park, we have never had a issue with an alcohol issue. It depends on the type of music you're coming in, the clients you're bringing in. If you're bringing in a, crazy rock band, well, you may have issues. And not only with alcohol, you may have issues with, consumption of other things. So, and all of our staff are smart served, they're on site, as well as we have security.
Yes. Back to the CAO, perhaps.
When you propose new policy or new initiatives, there's always a shot in the dark element. And certainly if I'm hearing concerns from council and this feels like it's too big an undertaking, might I suggest that council consider perhaps proceeding with the pilot project, but only in Peace Park? I point out that we marry a number of people every year, and Madam Deputy Clerk here does a fair number of weddings. And you can get married, but you can't have a glass of champagne in our band shell, like to celebrate your moment. But we do have a disconnect. We do have a formal economy of which alcohol is a part. It's a part of our economy here in Niagara. It's part of our economy here in Pelham. But there's also a base social aspect, an itch we're not scratching. Marriages are a fairly significant piece. Frankly, we offer a non-religious way to have a union, and there is demand for that in our society, as evidenced by the work done by the clerk, the deputy clerk, and a couple other people who have deputized to do weddings. So we do think there's some social utility to this. If we've suggested too much, if this is uncomfortable, we understand, hear what you're saying, but perhaps there's a way to just do half. And at Peace Park, given that it's a facility that already has alcohol, it's a facility, it's a park, where this community is used to the consumption of alcohol, albeit limited times a day and limited days of the year, but it is something it's already experienced with. That might be a reasonable middle ground for a one-year pilot. That'd be my suggestion, if I may. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nesnick, please.
Yes, so thank you. I don't really have any questions about it. I think if we did do a pilot project, I think given the CAO's advice and taking some baby steps forward at Peace Park, it doesn't make sense to me, and I've questioned it every time I've gone to Peace Park on the Thursday night, why I can have a drink on one side of the fence and not on the other side of the fence. So I think especially for the band shell times, that park should be totally open to consume alcohol wherever you sit or wander. And I think that was a good point with regards to weddings being held there and wanting to toast the bride and groom, or bride and bride, or groom and groom, whatever it may be. But so I'm comfortable with the baby steps. Centennial Park is a little bit of a different element in animal, just because there's so many different groups that do use that. The baseball teams, the pickleball folks, the soccer parents, and then the splash pad there where there's some little children running around. Although given that, we attend family picnics every year, and we usually bring a little imbibement, a beer or two, or that sort of thing in our coolers, and we just put them in a bottle. So, to be honest with you, I think if people want to have a drink, they're going to bring a drink in their water bottles, and you're not going to be any with the wiser anyway. So I think that's happening, and I think it's going to continue to happen. So I'm comfortable with starting the pilot project, maybe with suggestion number 3, and see how that goes. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hildebrand?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councillor Olson and Wink. I don't think we need to be first. I think we're treading on something we don't need to tread on at this point. It's too early. With regards to the parks, obviously Centennial for me is not a park where I think alcohol should be allowed. There's too many areas where drivers can go back and hide. I live by Harold Black Park, and I'm amazed that when I come by there, it doesn't matter what time of night, there's cars all over the place. And I know the residents there don't appreciate those cars being there at those time of night. Adding alcohol to that park would not be something that would be appreciated, to say. I know that when they were gonna put the skate park down there, the residents were up in arms because they weren't necessarily enthusiastic about the potential crowds that that skate park would be attracting to that area and all the other related things. So basically, I'm sticking with option one, to wait and see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do see Councillor Wink.
I didn't pick an option.
No,
at
indeed
this
you
point.
didn't.
So,
No,
so just hearing some of the comments, and in all honesty, on Thursday nights, those people that are sitting on the other side of the fence, they're bringing in alcohol, you know, in large containers and whatever. They're just not bringing in coolers. The other thing is, if you come in Peace Park on Sunday, there's farm laborers here having beer in the park. They're not hurting anyone or whatever, but it's there. We're not enforcing the bylaws at that point in time, but that's happening, you know. I understand where the comments regarding a wedding or whatever, and, you know, how do you distinguish a wedding or some other celebration or whatever without getting a liquor license just for a short period of time. I'm okay trying a pilot in Peace Park. I'm just not there yet at Centennial. So I'd go option 3.
okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Eckert.
To carry on with Councillor Wink's comment, I can tell you that professionally, since 1974 that I was involved in enforcement, drinking in public parks always goes on. It goes on in every municipality that I've worked in, and it goes on here in Pelham. The difference is that it's really complaint-driven enforcement. So if the family goes in and sits at a table, as Councillor Niznik said earlier, and they consume, I can remember going through the park in Port Dalhousie and watching people furiously trying to hide their wine and beer at their tables, which I had spotted 100 yards away, and yet they're just a family having it. So we've always sort of turned a blind eye to it. I don't agree with Centennial Park. I don't want to be in a position of promoting it, allowing it and promoting it. Peace Park makes some sense to me. And to echo the comments about the bandshell area not being able to consume, I think there is a move afoot to expand that area down into the bandshell area, which would be great. But there is some opposition to it as well, I'm hearing. So, you know, some of the people down there don't want people purchasing up top and walking down and sitting down and watching, which to me seems a little ridiculous. But, you know, there's not much difference in people up top consuming and then coming down and sitting and watching the concert. So it doesn't matter where you get your fuel from. It's how you behave once you get down there. So I would be in favor of number 3. Having a pilot project in Peace Park.
Okay. Thank you. Any further debate before I call the vote? I don't see any.
Through Mr. Mayor, I would be looking for a mover and a seconder
Okay.
just to insert that option 3.
Okay, yeah, and mover and a seconder for voting on option 3. Council Eckert, and Shelley, Council Nesnick.
Excellent,
With
thank
the
you.
seconder.
Thank you.
And,
You may proceed with the vote.
okay, so on option 3, but wait, so, okay. Is everyone content voting on option 3? Okay, so we'll vote on option 3 then. All those in favor of doing a pilot program as stated in option 3, please raise your hand. Okay, so yes. And all those opposed? Okay, motion carries then. And before we go any further in the program, we will have a 10-minute break, please. Thank you.